between uh, normalization of gender-based violence and the socioeconomic factors, the participation of educated women in the labor force in Sri Lanka, and also the relation between mandatory marriage registration and the reducing number of domestic violence. So before starting, I would like to also introduce Ms. Aditi Sobur, Associate Professor, Department of Gender. She is also, so thanks for joining, Aditi. We are very happy to have you here. And as I said that there are 4 paper presentations. So first, I would like to invite Mr. Rashid Aziz Kabir, and he will be talking about econometric analysis regarding the probability of a woman justifying household physical abuse based on various economic, educational, social, and circumstantial factors using multiple indicator cluster survey. So, Mr. Rai, the floor is yours. Let's see. চশমাটা নিয়ে আসতে হবে বুড়ো হয়ে যাচ্ছে
একদম বিগিনিং থেকে স্ক্রিনে বিগিনিংটা একটু না ফ্রম বিগিনিং একদম শুরু থেকে স্ক্রিনে দিয়ে যেটা আমি জাস্ট আচ্ছা এটা আবার একটু শুরু করেন
While fixing this, let me also share with you that first we will listen to the present. We will open the floor for our discussion today, and then we will also open the floor for you so that you can share your questions, ask your questions, or share your opinions or comments, etc. And then maybe the presenters will get back to you with their answers, and then we will end the session. Okay, so here we are.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I am Rasik Aziz Kabir. I'm currently serving as a research associate at the Research and Policy Integration for Development. Previously, I worked as a program associate in the Research Division for Center for Policy Dialogue. So my topic is econometric analysis regarding the probability of a woman justifying household physical abuse, which is based on various economic, educational, social, and circumstantial factors. So for a little bit of background of this study, so we all know that domestic violence against women is an issue that has been persistent across all the socioeconomic groups of Bangladesh, despite the fact that Bangladesh has achieved monumental progress when it comes to women empowerment. There is another elephant in the room, which is often overlooked, and it is the justification of physical abuse by women themselves, which is another very dire factor that is persistent across all the socioeconomic groups because of the internal misogyny of women, as well as the conservative sociocultural norms of Bangladesh. So there was a research conducted by Vishwas, Rahman, Kobir, and Raihan in 2017, which analyzed 3 nationwide surveys. And in all of these surveys, it was found out that almost 30% of women uh, justified household physical violence from their spouse. So there has been quite a few studies which were done in this particular issue, but the study that I did here is different in its methodology and approach. Now, coming to the research question, uh, research question for study of a woman's approval of household physical abuse. So the research objective in this study is uh, examining the various socioeconomic and cultural factors in shaping the mentality of a woman when it comes to the approval of abuse, as well as giving some policy recommendations based on the results. So coming to the literature review section, quite a few that were done in this particular topic, and a lot of these were done in countries like Ethiopia, Nepal. 3,000 eligible females in the study as well. And the study used a logistic regression model. 3 regressions were done to get the effect of approval of household physical abuse, and 8 independent variables were used. The independent variables were education level, wealth, and media exposure. These 3 independent variables were given the most emphasis. Other than this, the other independent variables were marital status, mobile phone ownership, computer tablet use, childbirth history, as well as husband's age. Now, coming to the descriptive statistics of this study, a multicollinearity test was done with the independent variables, and it was seen that the independent variables were not correlated with each other. So it was very convenient to use the independent variables in the way they are. And coming to the research methods, as I mentioned before, 3 logistic regressions were done in the study with 3 different dependent variables. The first dependent variable was justification if she lives without informing her husband. The second dependent variable was justification if she fails to look after the child. And the third dependent variable was justification if she engages in arguments with her husband. And for all the 8 independent variables, a logistic regression model was run with all these dependent variables in 3 different regressions. And dummy variables were also created for the qualitative independent variables in order to facilitate the regression analysis. Now, coming to the econometric evidence, as I said, I ran 3 regressions. So in the first regression, I used justification of physical abuse if she lives without informing her husband as the dependent variable. And in this regression, some of the findings were, as I mentioned before, I actually emphasized the independent variables, which were education level, wealth index, and media exposure. It was seen that these independent variables turned out to be quite significant determinants when it comes to the justification of household physical abuse by women. Women who are more educated, women who are more wealthy, or women who have more exposure to mass media are less likely to justify abuse towards themselves. And in this study, in this first regression analysis, the same result was found. Education level, wealth, and mass media exposure were very significant. And there was one subcategory in the mass media exposure section, which was if a woman reads newspaper or magazine every day. And it turned out to be the most significant determinant when it comes to the decline in the approval of physical abuse by women. Women who are more exposed to mass media are very less likely to justify abuse towards themselves. And it was also seen that from all the 8 independent variables that I used, only husband's age turned out to be the statistically insignificant dependent variable. Other than that, every other independent variable justification of physical abuse if she fails to look after the child. And as usual, and as pertinent with the previous regression analysis, it was seen that the exposure, as usual, were significant determinants. And other than this, it was also seen that justify abuse towards themselves. It was also seen that women whose husbands have more wives than one are less likely to justify physical abuse towards themselves. And it was another peculiar finding in both of these regression analysis was if a woman has mobile phone or tablet, they are more likely to abuse them, which is very which is not with the conventional system. Now coming to the third regression analysis, he engages in arguments with her husband. And as usual, the education level, wealth index, and mass media exposure, who are daily exposed to the mass media, are uh, less likely to justify abuse towards themselves. It was also owning a mobile phone or using gadgets increases justification probability. So, in the third regression analysis,
women participate in labor force. When it comes to age between 15 to 20, it's quite low because a lot of women in those age area engage with full-time education. So women who have more than about 50, it's also a negative relationship because in Sri Lanka minimum retired age is 55, which means many women in labor force are like to get retired when they get 55. Higher education attainment has a positive effect on the decisions of education women to participate in the labor force. But in 2016, there was a study done by Ms. Jaitunga. It says that higher education attainment reduced the probability of being engaged in labor force. But in 2020 data set, it shows it's increased the probability just because of opportunity cost happen because of the crisis. Because Sri Lanka faced COVID-19 crisis as well as financial crisis. Being engaged and not in labor force, that might be a high opportunity. That might be a reason for get back to the labor force. When it comes to literacy, many studies suggest that a lot of many studies suggest that literacy is a significant factor in terms of labor force participation. But interestingly, in my study, digital literacy leads to a positive relationship with women's labor force participation, but it is insignificant. Maybe just because of the narrow definition of our labor force survey in terms of digital literacy. And also, many studies suggest that the lack of English literacy may affect the employability. In my case, also shows if you have a good literacy in English, that might be an important factor in terms of getting good job. Residential factors and ethnicity, social factors also influence women labor force participation, as we know. When it comes to Sri Lanka, educated women in rural and state sector have a positive relationship, but most of them engage in informal sector. When it comes to Sri Lanka, a lot of women are working as informal worker. So we cannot, we cannot count those women's participation in labor force because they are engaging in informal sector. That might be a big issue in Sri Lanka right now. When it comes to family-related and labor force, family-related factors, a lot of literature says marriage is factor that limit women's labor force participation. But in my research, it shows being an educated married woman has a positive associate with the labor force participation. And also, this model shows a positive relationship between being the breadwinner. That's of course, if somebody is a breadwinner, if some lady is a breadwinner, she has a more responsibility to take care of her family. So that factor also significant in my research. So having a large family might be a lot of research says it's increase the participation of female labor force participation, but in my research it's reduce the likelihood of labor force participation. So actively engaging household work reduce the probability of being labor force, and having more than one employed in family decrease the educated female labor force participation. And also, most interesting factor is most of educated women practice associative mating. Consequently, educated women may prefer unpaid care work over the paid work due to the benefits they receive from their husbands. If your husband's getting high salary, the tendency of not being in the labor force is high in Sri Lanka in terms of educated women. This is the regression results in my research. When it's come to conclusion, so the probability of participating labor force of graduate and postgraduate is higher than over the 12th year past, and educated women are more likely to join the labor force at the age of 36 and 45 compared to the other categories, and lack of the English literacy reduce the ability to enter the labor force. And also, I forget to mention that if you have a training or a vocational training after getting your education, that factor also a positive impact in terms of getting a good job. So a training has a high contribution to increase the labor force participation, and marriage and household characteristics strongly influence women's labor force participation behavior. So according to my research, I saw in Sri Lanka there's a huge mismatch in terms of education. The supply and demand. If we can address that issue, that would be a good invest for the female labor force participation as well. And also work-life balance. In terms of Sri Lanka, we do have some policies in private sector. When it comes to public sector, there are no parental leaves, and there are no childcare facilities in terms of public workers. So if we can address those kind of things, I think we can improve educated female labor force participation quite big. So yeah, and also the courses offered by the university should be updated as required by the job market. I think these are the recommendations I can say based on my research. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks, Christine, for the wonderful presentation. I see a lot of similarity with our country context, right? I mean, we assume that maybe there is a very strong correlation between higher education and women in the labor force participation, but that may not be the fact all the time. And in Bangladesh also, for various initiatives, we have also attained, the girls are enrolled, the 100% girls are enrolled. I think in some cases we are even seeing some reverse trend, right? The boys in the chore areas or very remote areas where women are getting, the girls are getting stipend, boys are not. And then the boys are even helping the fathers in their work, agriculture work, but women are going to the school. But that doesn't mean that all these educated women will enter into the labor force. So that means, that has relation with maybe discriminatory social norms and practices. And also there is a strong pushback nowadays we are seeing against women's empowerment and gender equality. That might be another reason. And also another interesting thing that I just noticed that the women who are breadwinner, they have more probability that they are entering into the labor market. And in Bangladesh also there is a research, I don't know, very recently, Naila Kabir had a research on renegotiating patriarchy, and there she was also trying to argue that women actually use the cracks. Cracks meaning that when the men are going outside the family or when it is a women-headed households, and there is a more chance that women use it for entering into the labor market and sending their girls to the schools, etc. So that's quite interesting to see the relation and the similarities between these two country contexts. So now I would like to invite our third paper presenter, Ishrat Sharmin. She will be presenting on understanding female underrepresentation in construction, a Bangladesh case study. So over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to present our research work, which is a work in progress right now. So the study that we are going to present is Understanding Female Underrepresentation in Construction, a Bangladesh case study. So I have two more co-authors with me, Deepa Dash and Ikramul Hassan. So the context and the motivation for this study came from the reality that the construction sector is a booming sector in Bangladesh. Its contribution to GDP has shown a steady upward trend over the years, and it's expanding, and there is an escalated demand for labor, which is only going to rise. So this has a substantial opportunity for the female workforce to participate and contribute in this sector. However, currently this sector exhibits stark gender imbalances, with only 0.4% of the workforce being female compared to the counterpart, which is 8.18%. So this is based on LFS 2022 data. However, the previous labor force surveys shows a similar trend. Moreover, this consistent trend or pattern has not been that much discussed, or has not been analyzed enough. There is a notable gap in this literature regarding the factors contributing to this gender disparity in the construction sector in Bangladesh. So there is no comprehensive study examining the dynamics, and at the same time, there is no study regarding the gender-based disparity and barriers in this sector, especially regarding the wage. So I'm not going to go into the details of the literature review. However, there have been various studies worldwide where we have seen that construction industry has been an area of discrimination in various studies in other countries, and it has been mentioned that gender continues to be a significant source of division in this sector. So the research has further shown that skill development and employment opportunities are two areas in the sector that has actually shown the gender divide. So in Bangladesh, there has been some studies regarding wage disparity. Especially, I'd like to mention a study conducted by Bidisha et al., which had a comprehensive analysis of gender wage gap. So here, as part of the sectoral analysis, they mentioned that the construction sector was the most significant sector that has gender wage gap. The biggest gender wage gap.
there is one thing I'd like to mention is that there is very limited data regarding this sector. In Bangladesh, there is only one particular survey that has been found in the recent times. So that is actually SAEC Employer Survey 2017 that mentions or gives us some look into how this gender disparity is happening. So we have gone, while going through the literature, we have seen that the previous studies have worked with the LFS 2005 data or 2010 data, and they have seen significant gender wage gap. So coming to the methodology of our study, we have taken both qualitative and quantitative approach. For qualitative approach, we have had FGD and KI, and for quantitative approach, we have utilized the LFS 2022 dataset and employed econometric models like OLS, Heckman correction model, and Blinder-Oaxaca decomposition model. So while we are going to the findings section, what we saw from the qualitative study is that contractors or the employers claim that there is no gender wage gap at the formal level. However, it's evident at subcontractor level. So that was the primary finding from the KIIs, and female workers have weaker bargaining power. Subcontractors take advantage of that by offering them lower wage for the same level of work. On average, female workers earn 500 to 600 BDT per day, whereas skilled male workers such as bricklayers and tilers earn between 800 to 1500 BDT. They often struggle to secure consistent work. They typically work 4 days a week and 15 days a month at most. So this is also something that female workers particularly face. Also, from the perception of female workers, they believe that they should be given higher range 700 to 900 BDT per day to ensure a basic subsistence. So this is something that have been come from our study. So after that, we did the quantitative analysis, and from the quantitative analysis, what we've seen that these are the results for the quantitative analysis, where we have shown the Heckman selection model and inverse Mills ratio. The Heckman selection models corrects the sample selection bias by estimating who works and wage determinants. The inverse Mills ratio corrects bias. A significant lambda indicates OLS estimates are biased. However, I'm going to go to the discussion given the time constraint. The higher education increases wages, but it is possible that OLS overestimated the impact. Age is statistically significant. OLS shows a strong age disadvantage for rural region, and large wage penalty was seen for part-time workers. Positive impact was seen for working hours. Marriage wage premium was seen for both models. Last but not the least, women are getting significantly less than men, evident from both OLS and Heckman, highlighting notable gender wage gap in this sector. So after the Blinder-Oaxaca decomposition result, these are the results. So what we've seen is that education is positively associated with wages, but women receive lower returns. Hence, merely increasing education levels will not close the gender wage gap unless structural discrimination in hiring and promotion is addressed. A negative coefficient suggests that it reduces wage overall. However, men receive a much stronger penalty. This might be due to a selection bias. Living in a rural area has little impact on wages overall. Part-time work has an insignificant effect on wages for women. More working hours are associated with significantly higher wages for men. marriage is positively associated with wages. This suggests social expectation and labor market discrimination against married women. So the key implication from this study is wage discrimination in construction sector is evident, favoring men. Nonetheless, the gap is smaller compared to the overall gender wage gap in the country. Despite this smaller wage gap, women's participation in consistently remaining low. This suggests that while wages may be comparatively more equal than other sectors, cultural norms, safety concerns, and skill gaps are limiting women's entry in this sector. Based on the overall discussion, the policy recommendations that we came up with was that there needs to be a database, employee database for the construction sector. Gradual formalization of the sector would help. Having a well-coordinated public-private effort might help in this arena. Having a well-defined structure for health and safety for the workers will help. Having a separate body to ensure workplace safety and gender-sensitive training is also of paramount importance. Incentivizing and popularizing the sector would help women to understand their potential in this sector and having a gender-responsive ecosystem overall. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ishrat, for the wonderful presentation. I think this is an area where we don't have that many studies. So the recommendations would really help the policymakers, I think, to improve women's participation in this particular sector. And also, when we think of this sector, we only think of the laborers, right? But there are many other layers where women can come in. So let's move to the fourth presentation. I think the fourth presenter will be online, right?
Yes.
Hello, Ms. Rikia Gupta, can you hear us? No, she's unmuted, but we can't hear you. Can you speak? No, they can't hear. Let's fix it.
Now ask her something, please.
Not yet. Yeah, I think it's breaking. Okay.
And can you hear us? Hello? I think he can hear us. Can you speak?
Yeah, now we can hear her, but the voice is breaking a little bit. Can you talk once again so that we can check?
Mic is fine. Check.
No, I can't hear you.
Can you speak again? No. Should it be again?
No.
Okay, just hold on a minute, okay? Just we're checking. Can you, yeah, I think, can you sign out and rejoin once again, if possible? Yeah, okay. আমরা চেক করছি কয়েকবার I think it's
ওর ডিভাইসেও সমস্যা হতে পারে
ল্যাপটপে সাউন্ড কমানো আছে ম্যাডাম
বাড়ানো আছে কমাই দিব
না না ল্যাপটপ
না আমার সাউন্ড ঠিক আছে
মোবাইল বা এসে জয়েন করতে check.
Hello, am I audible? Audible.
Yes.
Okay,
we can hear
okay,
you
great,
now.
great. Yeah, sorry for the
Yeah.
can-
It would be great if we could have you in person.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Hear
also
us, right? This is from Rikia Gupta on the mandatory marriage registration, the relation between mandatory registration and reducing number of domestic violence. So over to you, Rikia.
thank you so much. Can I have the screen sharing rights? I am not being able to share my screen.
Okay. Yeah. I think your internet is stable, right?
Yeah, my internet was like, I mean, I hope it is stable.
Okay. Okay. Kindly share your screen.
No, I can't. It says host disabled participants screen.
Have the presentation.
Okay. So should I share?
Will you be able to change the slides as I speak?
All participants. All participants for now.
Okay.
Yeah, now I think I can share now. Okay. My screen visible. Is it visible?
Just a
Um,
minute.
Okay.
Start.
How do I make it?
Rikia, you can start presenting.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn on the full screen mode. Okay.
It's a PDF. It's not It's okay. না ঠিক আছে এখন ঠিক আছে.
Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, okay, great. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Rikia, and I'm a fifth year PhD student at IIT Kanpur. So the paper that I'm going to present today is called "Signing for Safety: Can Mandatory Marriage Registration um, Reduce Domestic Violence?" Now, okay, here is a brief introduction of the study. So we all know that the number of domestic violence cases have been rising at an alarming rate in recent years. And in fact, 1 in every 3 women worldwide, which counts up to more than 500 million women globally, they report to have experienced some form of domestic violence at least once during the span of their relationship. Now, domestic violence not only has a direct and negative impact on women's mental and physical health, but it also has adverse intergenerational effect on child's health, education, and even their cognitive behavior. Now, in developing countries like in India and Bangladesh, with pre-existing patriarchal norms, this problem becomes more acute because of the pre-existing social taboos related to the reporting of domestic violence.
Now, if we look at this report by WHO, which was published in 2016, they say that more than 40% of domestic violence cases happen in South Asian countries. And if we talk about India, and if we look at the recent round of NFH's National Family Health Survey, which was conducted in 2019 to 21, more than 30% women, they report to have experienced domestic violence. But what is more concerning is that more than 87% of these women who report to experience domestic violence, they don't seek help from any formal or informal sources. So that is concerning, and this calls for strong policy interventions that can reduce domestic violence and that can smoothen the process of help seeking for these affected women. Now, in this paper, what we do is we study the impact of a mandatory marriage registration policy on domestic violence in India. Now, let me highlight our contribution here. Due to lack of time, I'll not be able to talk about all these papers in very detail, but I'll be happy to come back and talk about any of these papers. So first of all, we contribute to the literature that looks at or explores different causes of or different socioeconomic and demographic factors that causes domestic violence, and we highlight the role of a novel determinant of domestic violence, which is the lack of legal documentation of marriage. And secondly, we contribute to the broader literature that highlights the role of, we focus on how legal institutional changes can influence norms related to violence against women. And this is the first study to evaluate the impact of marriage registration as a policy that looks at effectiveness of different policy measures in reducing violence against women. And lastly, we demonstrate how corruption can impede the policy effectiveness, or how corruption can hinder the effectiveness of public service delivery to be generic. I will talk about the last point at a later stage, but let me now move on to the policy context. So in India, birth and death registrations are mandatory, but not marriage registration. So state governments, they can decide their own marriage registration policies, and the reason is that different states they have their different socio-cultural norms related to marital practices. So state governments can decide their policy. Now, in 2005, National Commission for Women, they drafted a bill highlighting the different kind of issues arising from non-registration of marriage, for example, bride trafficking, then child marriage, etc. And then in 2006, Supreme Court of India instructed the state governments to design policies to make marriage registration mandatory. And following that instruction from Supreme Court, in 2006 only, Bihar made marriage registration mandatory. And according to this policy, every couple who are getting married within the state of Bihar, they are required to register their marriages within 30 days. And a failure to compliance can result in a monetary penalty imposed on the husband. Okay, so for methodology, we follow a very standard DID method, where our treatment state is Bihar, where the mandatory registration policy was implemented, and our control state is Jharkhand, which is the neighboring state. And our treatment group consists of women who got married after the policy, and our control group is women who got married before 2006. So for control group, when at their time of marriage, registration was not mandatory, so they are not treated in that sense, right? Now, this is our estimating equation. YIMTS is the outcome of woman I who got married in the year in district D and in the state S. Bihar I is a dummy variable which takes value 1. If the woman is from Bihar, and 0 if the woman is from Jharkhand. Post IM is another dummy variable that takes value 1 if the woman's year of marriage is after 2006, and 0 if it is before 2006. X is a vector of controls. Delta M is year of marriage fixed effect, and theta ds is district fixed effect. Okay, now for data, we use the fourth round of national summary and we restrict our sample to eligible women with an age group of 15 to 49 who were selected for the domestic violence module. So these domestic violence questions, these questions were asked for a specific subsample of all the women surveyed. So we restrict ourselves to that particular sample in Bihar and Jharkhand. And we also restrict our sample to women whose year of marriage was in between 2002 to 2015. And the reason is that in 2001, Bihar and Jharkhand, so before 2001, Bihar and Jharkhand, they used to be one unified state. In 2001, the state of Bihar got bifurcated, and then Bihar and Jharkhand, they emerged as two separate states from 2002. And by 2015, because in 2016, Bihar implemented this statewide ban on alcohol consumption, which could have a very strong confounding impact on domestic violence. That is why we restrict ourselves to before 2016 years. Now, Table 1 presents our summary statistics. We use 4 indicators of domestic violence. One is emotional violence, then sexual violence, physical violence, and any of these 3 types of violence. And all these 4 indicators are like dummy variables, which takes value 1 if the woman says she actually experienced this particular form of violence, and 0 otherwise. And I also take some mechanism outcomes from the data, but I will talk about these mechanisms at a later stage. Before I show you the results, estimation results, let me talk about how can mandatory registration reduce domestic violence. So first of all, having a marriage certificate, it smoothens the process of help seeking, or process of seeking legal help, or the process of filing a domestic violence case. So for unregistered marriage, suppose a woman goes to file a complaint and she's trying to fight the case in the court. The husband can always deny the marital relation in the court, and in that case, it becomes the woman's responsibility to prove the marital relation. And if she fails to do so, then the case automatically becomes obsolete. Now there are other forms of marriage which are acceptable in court. For example, wedding photographs, wedding cards, etc. But so I mean, because of like especially in the age of AI, anyone can fake those documents, right? But marriage certificate is like it is verifiable, and it is a legal document which is the court cannot deny the existence of a marriage certificate. So that is number 1. And second is that marriage registration, it acts as a safety net for vulnerable women, in the sense that it offers legal protection and rights such as ancestral restraining orders, child custody, and spousal support in case of divorce. And third is that registration, marriage registration, because you need the presence of witnesses during the process of registration. It makes the marriage a public knowledge. So it increases the accountability of husband and reduces the likelihood of bride isolation, which is a major cause of domestic violence. Now, in this table, I present the DID estimates. So we have the results without controls and with controls. So with controls, we find that after...
we are running out of time, so it would be really nice if you wrap up within 2 minutes, please.
Okay, sure. Okay, so we find a reduction in all forms of domestic violence after the policy in the treated state. Now, the effectiveness of those estimates depends on the event study analysis. So we find that before the policy, there was no pre-policy trends, and after the policy, we find that the impacts are the significant difference between the violent starts emerging after 2011. And we find that in 2011, Nepal implemented this Right to Public Services Act, which increases the accountability and transparency in public service delivery. So I'll skip this part. So for the mechanisms, we find that so we divide the mechanism outcomes into two parts. One is husband's outcome, where we find a reduction in polygamy, reduction in alcohol consumption, and reduction in justification of violence by husband. And for women's outcomes, we find increase age of marriage, child marriage, increase women's education, increased awareness, which is measured by media exposure, and we also find a reduction of justification of domestic violence by wife, which I think Rasik already mentioned at the beginning of this session. Okay, for heterogeneity, we find that non-poor and non-marginalized caste, they are mostly benefited from the policy compared to their poor and marginalized caste counterparts, but we do not find any significant rural-urban heterogeneity in the results. For robustness check, we carried out the standard DID robustness. For example, we check the balance observable characteristics. We do the falsification test using three outcomes, which are not likely to be impacted due to the policy. We also take Chhattisgarh as a placebo state, and as usual, we do not find any impact. We also take placebo treatment here. Again, no significant coefficient as expected. Then we exclude the bordering districts because in case of bordering districts, the likelihood of interstate marriage is higher. So exclude the bordering district also. To very quickly conclude, we find this paper highlights how mandatory marriage registration policy can reduce domestic violence, and also how it can negatively impact polygamy and child marriage. And we also highlight that corruption in the civil registration system can hinder the effectiveness of the policy. So we find that the policy was not really effective until we had implemented another policy which was targeted to reduce corruption in the public service delivery. So we conclude with a note to the policymakers that yes, marriage registration should be made mandatory, but it should be combined with the broader strategy.
Thank you, Rikia, for sharing very important and interesting findings from your study. Now I would like to directly go to today's expert and the discussant for today's session, Aditi Sobur. I have mentioned earlier that she is Associate Professor of the Department of Women and Gender Studies of University of Dhaka. So Aditi, over to you to share your insights.
Good morning, everyone. A young researcher presenting their research. Before I start my discussion, I would like to make clear that I am not an economist, and my specialty is not economic analysis or quantitative analysis. I am social scientist who has a training in gender, and specifically gender in different aspect of gender. We teach and we work on this kind of issues. But then, so my comment will be solely on gender aspect of the papers, not necessarily the econometrics analysis or the quantitative analysis or numeric analysis you have in your paper. So please pardon me if that kind of contributes, or it doesn't contribute that much. But then, yes, I would go first to Rashid's presentation, and I would say that it's commendable to actually pick up a very critical and deeply entrenched issue in Bangladesh, which is the justification of household physical abuse by women themselves. And it's not only socially relevant, but also it is very important to understand these issues, because if we have come across kind of, when it comes to women's empowerment, we have come a long way. But then again, there are issues like gender-based violence, which are still hindering women's empowerment in a very larger scale. So thank you for kind of picking that issue up. Gender issues, and then I would actually comment a little bit on how far this research can go if we add little more other things. So when it comes to relevance, this is for Rashid's paper, that it actually uses the multiple indicator cluster survey. That's a huge 61,000 households. So that actually gives us a comparatively very generalized aspect of understanding certain things, which is fantastic. And then when it comes to policy relevance, the paper actually gives us actionable insights for policymakers by identifying two very key factors to reduce the likelihood of violence in Bangladesh, and that is education and economic empowerment. And also, since it actually uses a wide variety of literature, both in global literature and also contextual literature, and it also actually makes the paper very relevant and relevant to the field of violence against women. But what I really want to identify that very interesting finding is that often we think that men are the perpetrators of patriarchy, and they're the ones who are kind of carrying the legacy of patriarchal biases, stereotypes, and inequality. But then we often see women only as the victims and not the ones who actually normalize violence and justify violence by not fighting against it, or probably sometimes not talking about it. So that's justification. This is the right. We actually see women agency in a very different way, because we see women talking about their own understanding of violence and how that actually can impacting them by their own voices. So that is kind of an interesting finding that I think this paper is contributing. And but then again, when it comes to, I think there are scope for I would say scope for improvement. That is actually, I would say it is for all of, except for the Ashraf's paper. This is a common understanding or common observation I have. When it comes to quantitative analysis, there are pool of research where quantitative methods are included. And then there we are, like we're not feminist economists, just feminist studies or gender studies doing our studies. We are very qualitative oriented. We believe in narratives. We want stories behind every problem. And then that is not all. Sometimes it's problematic because it doesn't give you the generalized picture of a lot of things, or sometimes statistics, numeric presentations are very important to make for policy making. So this is for all three, all four, except for yours, all three papers, that I think it's a high time that we merge qualitative and quantitative. We use mixed methods because then again you have not only have a very robust numeric quantitative analysis, then again also very deeper analysis of certain things which are very much required because all the papers are dealing with issues like domestic violence, issues like labor force participation, issues mostly labor force participation, and so be it legal, be it perception wise, we need deeper understanding of certain things. So I think improvement is that if it's possible, please start adding qualitative approach to your more quantitative approach. And other than that, I have specifically one question for you, or I really want to know that if we know that when it comes to perceiving certain thing and justifying certain thing, the cultural and regional variation. I mean, when a woman is from an urban area, she will perceive certain things a certain way, and women in rural area will perceive certain things in a very different way. So if I think the rural-urban comparison might help a better understanding of actually if there is a generalized trend of women justifying their own violence sometimes. So that's a very precise comment on your paper. And when it's come, I would go to now second, Christine's paper. All this paper has an interesting thing that it actually made me question certain things. Like I always thought, this is my conventional understanding of Sri Lanka, we have this very big number that's saying that Sri Lanka has improved in education sector quite a lot. And again, not all education, and this fact, and this is a correlation we always, and especially when it comes to gender. If you see the paper, we will see that education plays a very important role, and it can be used as a tool for women's empowerment in many ways, but not necessarily higher education or education itself. Thank you for actually challenging the assumption and probably put a new light on the understanding that education and women's economic empowerment goes side by side or hand in hand, not necessarily always. So that's a very interesting point that I have come across. And also the thing is, I like Rashid's paper. You were methodologically quite rigorous, and which is kind of a strength of the paper. That it uses, and also it uses a wide variety of explanatory variables like age, education, marital status, digital literacy, household characteristics, that allows a very comprehensive analysis. And also it actually made very, very precise policy recommendation, like promoting digital vocational training. So this is also the strength of the paper, that we have more specific policy recommendations. And then it actually can help bridge the gap between education and employment for women in Sri Lanka. But then again, I come to the fact that when it comes to labor force participation, we see a very kind of elaborate picture, probably, if I'm not wrong, for more formal sector labor force participation we're talking about. What about the informal labor force participation? Like, does education has a correlation with labor force participation in informal sector of women? And that's something that is that can be actually focused on later if you want to elaborate the research somehow. And Also, same regional disparities. We haven't seen the urban rural. If women are in urban area, and education plays a better role for their accessing labor force or not, and how that is different for rural women and urban women. That's also can be explored somewhere. And also, this is the two thing I want to know about the second paper. And I'm extremely sorry, I do not have a very elaborate understanding of third paper because we have the presentation and the presentation and the papers were other three were actually sent to me and I had a time to go through that, but then it's just presentation. Sorry, I'll take a minute. And then, I like the strength of the paper would be the methodological using of mixed methods and also the fact that it contributes itself to the research that is not there. Women in construction sector is comparatively new, and I think if I could actually go through the whole paper, I could have more recommendation or insights, but then now I don't. And when it comes to Rikia's presentation, I would say it is important. It's an important paper in a sense that it actually talks about women's legal empowerment and how marriage registration is important to have legal empowerment, be that seeking help, be that filing divorce, be that child custody, all of this. So that is very important aspect of Rikia's presentation that I found. But then again, also it talks about child marriage and education, and also actually a gender paper and talking about corruption and institutional efficiency. It's kind of important. So that's the strength of the paper. And when it comes to the limitation, not limitation, but more the areas that can be improved. That is, it is for all of the participants. You are in earlier stage of your probably research career, but then first of all, we need methodological directions, like more methods coming together and making a very comprehensive analysis and of an issue. And second, all of the presentation are dealing with issues which are not very structural, which are embedded in context. Relations are there which are impacting these issues. So when we talk about the thing, we lose the understanding the structural factors, inbuilt structural factors that gender gap, the perception, the understanding, the contextuality of things, the normalizing violence, a lot of things. So I would say that we need more, not only methodological triangulation, but also intersectional approach towards research, especially when it comes to gender research, because this is you have identified variables, independent variables, dependent variables. You have come across a lot of variables. Is that there are multiple factors and coming together and impacting a certain issue, be that labor force participation, be that violence against women, be that the perception of violence against women, domestic violence. So in that way, we need more intersectional research, but you have done a great job when it comes to kind of formulating new assumptions, new ideas, and challenging them as well. So I wish all of you very good luck with your further researches, and I thank Sanem to actually make me part of this wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for very, very good insights on all four papers. Thanks a lot. So without, I think this session would be incomplete if we cannot hear from the audience. And I'm really happy and impressed to see that many male, of course, very important. We want to achieve gender equality, but I'm really impressed and thanks for the to the male participants who are here and have showing interest. It's really impressive. And also we have by a male researcher on gender-based violence. So I'm really happy about that. Thanks a lot. I mean, in that I'm not thanking the other female participants. So now I would like to open the floor for the participants to ask any question. We may not be able to answer all the questions. Please keep it in mind because of the time constraint. But let's also park the questions and you can also have discussion with the researchers later on and you can share your recommendations or any comment that you have. Maybe the organizers can help with passing the microphone to the participants who wants to. Okay, great. Please also introduce yourself first.
Okay, I am Muntaka Shaira. I am currently reading in University of Dhaka, Department of Economics. So my question kind of goes hand in hand with the discussion, Aditi Sabur. Okay, my question is to Rashid Bhai. You have told us in your research paper that if women are ever through media or be it newspaper, they are they are less likely to justify that abuse. But if we can see in Bangladesh context, especially today, there is a very concerning issue coming in that's called marital rape. So, if can I ensure that education or being aware if women will vocal about the thing she is going through from a women's perspective, from my perspective, if a woman is aware of the society, she will tend to think that if she vocals about it or voices about it, the people or the in the society will tend to be gossip or more likely interested in her personal life rather to help her getting justice. So I think from my perspective, it just kind of the impact of education just get reversed or being aware just gets reversed.
Yeah, thank you. I think if I have question, Rashid, it's not clear, right? Okay. So can you, or you can also tell in Bangla. You can summarize the question very simple way.
আমার কোশ্চেনটা অ্যাকচুয়ালি না, এটা হচ্ছে আমার পার্সপেক্টিভ। আমার মনে হচ্ছে যে মহিলারা যদি অ্যাওয়ার হয় সোসাইটি সম্পর্কে তাহলে তারা বুঝবে, তারা হয়তো ভাববে যে যেমন মেরিটাল রেপ সম্পর্কে বা তারা এরকম একটা জিনিস ফেস করছে, এই ইস্যুটা যদি বাহিরে আসে তখন মানে তাদেরকে জাস্টিস না দিয়ে সবাই তাদের পার্সোনাল লাইফ সম্পর্কে বেশি ইন্টারেস্টেড হবে। সো আমার মনে হচ্ছে এখানে মানে অ্যাওয়ারনেসের জিনিসটা একটু রিভার্স হয়ে যায়, তখন মেয়েরা কম ভোকাল হবে বা তারা হয়তো চুপচাপ থাকবে, জাস্টিফাই করবে আর কি রিডিউস না করে।
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe is there any other?
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashikul Islam. I'm currently doing my undergraduate degree in economics at the University of Dhaka. So my question is to Ms. Christine Maisha. You have mentioned in your paper that women aged between 36 to 45 are more engaged in labor force compared to other ages, right? And you have taken that educated women in the sense that those who have passed from high school or 12th grade or something. So why is it that women aged from 35 to 36 to 45 are more engaged in the labor force? Is there any specific reason behind it? Because there's a huge time gap you can see there. So that's my question. I have another question, but I would prefer to get this answer first.
Any other question or comment? No? No? No. Okay.
Morning, thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance. I am Safwan from Department of Economics, University of Dhaka. So my question is to the first presenter, Mr. Kabir. You discussed the role of mass media exposure in reducing the likelihood of justifying physical abuse by a husband. You proposed a policy of increasing mass media awareness as a potential solution. However, my question is, how effective would be this policy for the individuals who deliberately conceal or cover up such issues due to religious obligations, personal beliefs, and social pressures? Thank you.
Any other question? If not, then we will.
Another one.
Yes, yes. Maybe you can go very quickly.
Sure.
Okay.
Too much inquisitive.
No, it's okay.
So my second question will be to Ms. Sharmin. You have said you have mentioned in your paper that women have comparatively lower negotiation power, right, on construction sites. So you have mentioned that 500 to 600 is their average wages compared to male, where it is about 800 to 1,000. So is it possible that the reason behind it is because of the capacity to work between male and female? Because in construction site we cannot, and there are some bindings that you cannot assign every single task to women because they have a different type of capacity to work. We can load the men with heavy tasks. It is possible, and besides that. More male persons compared to women are most likely to earn for their whole family. Whereas you can see when a female person is working, it is most likely that she is supporting her husband as well. While her husband is working, she is also working. Like, so she doesn't have the pressure of meeting the whole family or bearing the cost of the whole family. But a male person has it. So this can be a reason that the women are most likely that they are happy with lower payments or they are not interested in negotiating that much.
Okay, so first, yeah, please go ahead.
So, hi, I'm Rashi from IIT Roorkee, India. My question is from Mr. Kabir. So you said you mentioned three models, right? Like justification of physical abuse if she leaves without informing the husband, and the other one was if she fails to look after the child, like that. So my question is, did you consider three separate models, or like did you consider a model which incorporated either this or that, like a justification based on all three? Like that, did your model consider that? Thank you.
Okay, so let's get back to the researchers. So first to Rashid, you have one comment and now a question.
So first of all, about the limitation of my study, I actually mentioned that the main limitation of my study was not. So I actually mentioned that the main limitation of my study was not incorporating a qualitative model in the study. And this is actually my research monograph during my undergrad year. And the main reason for not incorporating a qualitative model was mainly due to the time constraint that I had during that time. And I would definitely keep that in mind. And now coming to the another point that Aditi Sabur ma'am mentioned, that is why I didn't include the cultural and regional variations as well as the rural-urban comparison. So the MICS data actually has a disaggregated model for the regional variations, but I actually didn't include it because there happen to be some problems regarding multiple linearity as well as some issues regarding the fitting of the model. So that's one reason. And now coming to the questions, there are three questions and two questions and one comment, I think. So coming to the very last question. So actually, I ran three logistic regressions separately. So the independent variables were the same, but I actually included three different dependent variables, three different ways of looking at the justification of physical abuse. So that's the case. And now coming to the
Just to say that there are influences. Justification can be because of all three things. A woman may consider all three things as justification. We are doing it separately, just seeing it, you're just seeing one side of the story. The one thing is happening. I have seen and read papers that have considered different reasons. You might.
yeah, thank you. I will definitely look into it. And now coming to the second last question, that is, I think the question was why what actually was the question? Can you please?
Question was, how effective will be the policy if we talk about those people who have some regional, so religious and other social problems?
So actually, there was data regarding religion as well, but for obvious reasons, I actually didn't include the religious perspective into it because it's a very sensitive issue and that's something I actually had to consider. And coming to the comment, can you please again mention the comment so that I can?
I think we don't have that much of time. It's okay. There is a comment and yeah.
Okay.
You can.
Okay.
So maybe I can give the microphone to Christine very quickly.
Okay. Thank you for the comment. Because in my research, there's a limitation because I'm not looking at my subjective perspective of my research. I will do definitely. So to your comment, your question, yeah, there's a huge gap. In 15 to 26, probably women's engaging full-time education in Sri Lanka. So right now I'm 25 years old. So still I'm doing my, I'm not complete my master's. So 15 to 26, most probably women are engaging full-time education in Sri Lanka. And after 30, probably, if most probably women after getting 30, they think about their marriage. So 30 to 36, they spend for their marriage or their child. After getting they re back into the labor force. That's why there's a huge increase in that particular age brackets. I think I'm answering your questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Ishra, you want to respond?
Yeah, sure.
But very quickly.
Yeah. So thank you for the question. So basically, what I'd like to little bit, I'd say deeper that in no part of my presentation, I have said that they are happy with the low wage or not interested in negotiating that much. What happens is that this is a fact that they get low wage, they're not happy with it, definitely. They have already shared that they want more, first of all. Second of all, when we are talking about low wage, we are already considering the wage that they get for the similar kind of work that they do. So the same kind of work, different wage. So the question of physical capacity, that doesn't come to the point, right? So we are not comparing different kind of works and their respective wages. So that's something, and not this. I'm not so sure about, because the thing is, women who are, studies have shown that women who work actually contributes completely. Their whole wage go to the family teacher. So I think there are a lot to unpack, but I don't have the time. I'd like to share the reports or the some studies with you that would actually clear the perception, I think.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I like the word perception. Perception is actually playing here. I think she has cleared it that for the same work, same hours, same quantity of work, women are getting less and we cannot justify it by saying that she might be the second person to earn in the family. There are many women who are the only breadwinner in their family. And also, it is not just by saying that when I am working for 8 hours and the same work I'm doing and I'm getting less. So it's about look for when you will, I mean, if you want to get married, you will look for a woman who is not taller than you, not more educated than you. So whom we are comparing with? There are many women who have bigger strength and more educated than male. So we are always comparing with someone who is less than me. I mean, I'm telling this from the standpoint of a man. So therefore, it's also important who we are comparing with. And she has rightly mentioned that there are number of studies which are showing that when women earns, most of the earning is going for the betterment of the household, whole family. So I think, and also men, when most of the money is, I mean, of course, the scenario is not the same. Many men will also complain that my whole earning is going to a woman. I'm giving it to my wife and etc. So it varies. So I think we should not generalize. And thanks a lot. But thanks a lot for actively participating by sharing your comments and questions. And these are the questions we need to ask. Doesn't matter how stupid the questions are. When you will question, then things will be clear. So thank you so much. I think there is a tea break. So I should not keep you waiting. Rikia, we don't have any question, but thanks a lot, Rikia, for joining us online. And thanks a lot to the all 4 researchers, and thanks a lot to Aditi for okay. Online. Okay, great. So how you want to do that?
So the presentation was first presentation.
Okay.
I think we should stand
Sure.
in the front row. The first one is the Sheikh Aziz Kabir. Second one is Christine Nasha. And third one is Isha Sharma. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's all right. It's Sure. I will help my